If your ego is so big that you can't help and serve, then you're too small to lead and win.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? My name is Matthew Welsh, and welcome to the Leaders Only podcast, where we talk about business, leadership, mindset, and just pretty much anything revolved around building an incredible life. You know, the reason that I started this podcast is because I felt like on the way to where we're at now, there wasn't really a place to go learn tangible skill sets, leadership qualities, and mindset strategies that you can learn today, apply today, and get immediate results. And so the goal of this podcast is to teach you the things that you need to actually win, to actually change your life, and to actually grow your business and grow your team if you're someone that's in the leadership role. And so if you can do me a favor, if you ever get something out of our message, if you ever get something out of the content, if you can like, share, subscribe, just tell people about it. We put out all this information for free. And so all we ask is that you share it with a friend if you get something out of it. So with that being said, thank you guys so much, and let's tune in. Let's go. I'm a big mood. You can't name a lot of things that I didn't. Today's gonna be a little bit more of a unique episode because I'm gonna be interviewing my wife. We had an event at our home not too long ago with a bunch of agents that are in business with us, and we did a special Q&A, and it truly was a special event. It was a special conversation, and it was something that we wanna be able to give you access to as well. So hopefully you love it, hopefully you enjoy it, and if you get something out of it, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, tell somebody about it, because hopefully it will make a difference in your life and in the lives of other people. Thank you guys so much. So I have some questions for you. You good with that?
I'm good. He never tells me either. I'm like,
I never tell her what the questions are going to be either, because I don't want her to be prepared. I want her to just free ball it, you know? Maybe that's a bad use of words.
I don't have I'm like, last time I checked.
So a question, I know I told him a little bit of what it was like in the beginning, but like, what was it like in the beginning of getting this thing off the ground? Because a lot of times people come in and they see the houses and they see the lifestyle and they see the big teams and they see the base shops, but what did it look like in the beginning stages of us trying to get it from a room of 3 people to now 2,500 licensed agents? Like, what did that look like from the beginning to now?
Yes, the beginning it's really not cute. It's ugly. It's like, truly, like, beginning is ugly. And like I said, like, our beginning is going to be way different than your beginning, because I'm coming from my experience, which is 0 leadership, 0 technology, 0 environment, 0, 0, 0, where you guys are plugging into something that's so much easier. But for us, it's ugly. It's doing the things you don't want to do. It's intentionally getting really, really good at self-development and understanding human nature and taking rejection and going through the motions of, because what happens is when you start this business, you're not already like elite. You're not already, some of you are already like going through personal development and going through training, but very rarely are you doing that. And so when you come into this business, it's almost like you're shedding the fat of your old self into this new person. So a lot of people think, oh, I start this business and then my life happens to just have a disaster, or everything just falls apart right when you sign your agency agreement or whatever it is, right? Like, but the truth of the matter is that you're just shedding your old self and you're becoming new. And so that process can look so much more intense if you were lacking the person that you were supposed to be previously. So for us, it was intentional. It's being so intentional and working so smart and so hard at the same time. Like, in the beginning, you're working so hard, like so hard, where it's exhausting. It's taking every ounce of you. But then you start working smart and you're like, okay, now I'm starting to get it. But it takes a lot. It takes getting really good with people, which is something that not everybody's really great with. Like, some of us are really natural and we're great with people, and then some of us aren't. It takes sacrifice, missing out on things. And I'm not saying that you should ever sacrifice your family, but there comes a point where you have to say no to certain things to be here. Like, I know Dylan and Gabby had something really important with their son this weekend, but they left early to be here. And that's a sacrifice that they're willing to do for the greater good of their team and their future. And not everybody's willing to do that. There's a lot of birthdays that you miss out on, a lot of weddings, a lot of, give Dylan and Gabby a big round of, because seriously, like, it's like missing something that's important to them, right? Some of us have to miss out on kids' games and things like that. And I know that that's really, really hard. Or not hanging out with the same group of people that you used to hang out with. And if you're a person who has ride or dies and roll dogs and, your family's very tight knit and that's important to you, sometimes it takes a sacrifice of not being in those circles anymore to elevate in your life. And so, for us, we didn't have LinkedIn. We didn't have the power of the social media to recruit.
It was like frowned upon. Like if you're on social media,
it was frowned upon.
Like frowned upon.
Yes. We didn't have, Excel spreadsheets and things that Yasmin have done. Like we didn't have that. So it was hardcore prospecting, recruiting. It was hardcore working, immense amount of hours, so intense that to the regular person, they would quit. But that's what it takes. If you want the life that you want to live, you have to put in the work. And I promise you, if you put in the work, it's going to come in fruition. It really is. It takes hard work and it takes sacrifice and it takes growing. It takes, like, whenever you have the opportunity to grow your mind, you need to be growing that tool constantly. Like, I didn't listen to music for maybe like 4 years unless I was working out. Like, it was literally audios and CDs and learning the business and podcasts. And it is now, like, the only like music we listen to now is country or worship music. Or if we're if we're at a party and we're having fun. But like every single time I'm in the car, it's an audio, it's a podcast, it's something that I need to get
still
good
that
at.
way to this day. Like, I get in her car and hers is going.
And I'm sending him stuff and I send the team stuff as much as I can, but it's intentionally growing and it's becoming a beast at elevating your life. And so that can come from your fitness, to the things that, like, everything should evolve. The things that you eat, the decisions that you make, the quality of time that you spend with your family, the things that you believe in, like, everything should intensify in the beginning. And pretty soon you'll start to go and hang out with the old people or try to go back to the old ways of living. And it's just so not relevant anymore that it almost becomes like, it almost brings you down, and then it becomes unattractive to even be in that space. So it takes hard work, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's easy and that, oh, you're going to get the house and you're going to get the car and you're going to get the family, because it's not easy, but it's freaking worth it. And it's so powerful once you break through, for sure.
And I know I told you guys this story yesterday, but like in the beginning, when we first started dating, like, we were a week into our relationship, and I told her straight up, I was like, listen, I'm going to be in the office early mornings and I'm going to be in the office late nights. And so if you want to see me, you got to join me in business. Mm-hmm. That was it. Right. Because there was going to be no budge. It was like, I'm going to be at the office at 8:30 and I'm going to be at the office till 10:30 minimum. Right. Most of the nights it was midnight to even 1 a.m. I was like, so if you want to see me, come to the office. Like, that was it. And so we would try to get a date night in here and there. We were also broke, so there was only so many date nights we could possibly go on, but we just enjoyed being with each other, right? And so just know, like, that was the schedule. And I told her that. I told her that in the very beginning. I said, listen, if you think that I'm going to choose you over the business, you're wrong. And I love you, but I'm not going to, because if I choose you over my dream, and when I say the business, I mean my dream, right? Because the business was how I was going to get to my dream. And so if I chose her over my dream, I would eventually resent her for not chasing my dream. So I said, you can either join me on this vision and join me in business where we're going to go after this dream, or you could also go after your dream simultaneously with me. And we can figure out what your dreams are. We can figure out what my dreams are. And together we'll go chase them together through this business, or else this isn't going to work. And I need to know up front if you're willing to grow the way that I'm willing to grow. I need to know up front if you're going to go work the way that I'm willing to work. And if you're not willing to work the same way, like, that's okay, but at least support me as I go do work. And she said 100%, I'm all in. And so when I tell you, like, she's just as obsessed about growth as me, like, I really mean it. She really is. In the very beginning, when you came in, I remember this, and you had really, really bad people approval addiction, right? Like, you really cared about what people thought. And so you were a people pleaser, and it affected you in business. It affected your ability to lead people. It affected your ability to have hard conversations. It just affected you because, like I said, you were addicted to the approval of other people. So what did you do to get out of that? Because a lot of times when you're addicted to people approval, you don't do the things you need to do to scale,
right? Because you care more about what other people think. When you're thinking about what other people think, then you don't do what you need to do. So how did you break through that approval addiction?
Yes. I was an addict. I was addicted to the approval of others so bad that it would like literally be debilitating. I wouldn't be able to talk on stage. I wouldn't be able to talk to a person. Like I cared what my family thought. I cared what everybody thought about me. And then I realized that as an individual, it's not my responsibility to carry the weight of other people's opinions about me. It's not my responsibility. That's on you. And then I also learned that why do I care what other people think about me who aren't paying my bills and keeping a roof over my head? Why do I care so much what an individual thinks about me who, at the end of the day, if I needed an emergency, are they going to be there? No. Why do we care if we're trying to recruit somebody or prospect somebody or close a deal, whatever it is, why are we like, if somebody says no, okay, like it's a no, it's not a big deal. It just means either not now or not ever, and that's okay. And I think no's a lot of the time are your higher power's way of protecting you from situations that shouldn't be in your life. And so oftentimes we take rejection, which is what I think it was. I had so much fear of being rejected because I just wanted to fit in. I wanted people to like me. But we carry on the weight of having so much anxiety and so much, it's like almost like scarcity we're so scared of being rejected, but oftentimes when you're rejected, that's a blessing. That just means it wasn't for you. Okay. That just means that client probably was going to charge back in 6 months. Okay. That just meant that recruit was just going to be a cancer in your organization. Okay. That just means your auntie and uncle really didn't believe in you. Okay, that just means your mommy and daddy really didn't believe in you if they're going to reject you. So in that process it's really hard to do because you grow up in a situation where your whole life you're trying to please people, right? You're trying to please your mom and dad and your brothers and sisters and your aunts and your friends and your teachers and your coaches, and you go through life but trying to constantly please people that you kind of lose self of pleasing yourself and what really makes you happy. And so once you get rid of the approval addiction and realize, okay, like if not everybody likes me, that's fine. As long as you're a good person. Now, if everybody in the world hates you and like people like can't stand being around you, then you probably should read the room and understand maybe it's a me issue. But if people just randomly just don't like you and you know that you're a good person, that you're doing the right thing and that you're still kind to people and they still don't like you, oftentimes they're just jealous. Like jealous people. I saw this quote that said, when people are so full of love, it irritates people that are so full of shit. Like truthfully, when you're so, I'm like, tell Jenna that I spelled it out. I didn't say it. No, but when you're so full of love and light and just a good person, people that can't even get to that level because that's not who they are, that's not them being their authentic self, start to hate. Because at the end of the day, it's easy for people to hate on you than for them to take the responsibility of saying, oh, I just couldn't do it. Now I'm just going to bring that person down. And so approval addiction is something that it's not a real thing. It's just what society puts on you. Hi, baby. And when it's truly lifted, like if you think about any situation in your life and you're like, well, why didn't I chase this dream? It's usually like if you get to the core of the reason, it's not like, oh, I didn't think I could do it. It's somewhere back down in the line of your life. Somebody told you couldn't do something. And so you thought, okay, yeah, I can't. So you took that label of another person and you hung on to that label and you just went and ran with it when that's really not the case. Like we are so capable of doing so many things. And once you release a lot of the labels that society puts on you, it's such a better way of living. And when you stop trying to prove people right and you just try to prove yourself right, you operate in a way of like your true self, like you are in alignment with who you're supposed to be. And so it took me like 4 years to do that. So I'm telling you like, oh, it's easy. It's not easy. It's something you have to work through. But it is possible. And it's so it's like a weight's been lifted off your chest for sure.
Yeah, 100%. You have so much peace when you're no longer living a life to impress other people, or you're just living a life to have a life of purpose that's fulfilling, right? And that's why we do this. So we're like, we don't give a crap what anybody else thinks. We just want to do what we love. And what we love is helping people become a better version of themselves, right? And that's why we do stuff like this. So in the beginning, your family didn't support us in any way. Because I convinced you to drop out of college.
Community college.
And in the Filipino culture, that's a hell no, right? So your family, yeah, you better, like what Mike says, I was a nurse, right? And so in the very beginning, your family didn't support us at all because you went full time with me. Then we started doing good and helping take care of your family, and then they loved us. And then we did way better than your family. And they got envious and started not liking us. So like, I know, kind of crazy. But how have you dealt with that? Right? Like I said, in the very beginning, they didn't support us. Then they started to support us when we started doing good. And then we did far greater than them. And then they stopped supporting us again and got like envious and jealous, unfortunately. Right? So how have you dealt with that?
It's really sad. I'm not going to lie, because your whole life you want to make, like I said, your parents proud and your family proud. And that happens quite often. Like a lot of successful people I talk to that are on different levels of success, like hundreds of millions, I'm talking billions, they go through something very similar. And it's really, it's back, I don't know how to explain it, but back then I would have a really hard time. But now I operate more of like, it's a projection of them. It has nothing to do with me. Like, for instance, I'm a mom, so I have 2 beautiful daughters, and my whole life goal is to make sure that those 2 little girls do far better than I ever could. And if they do, I'm going to be so proud. And if they don't, I'm going to still be proud. And I don't operate in a sense of like, I don't have a jealous bone in my body. I really don't. Like most people, like, like there's that jealous girl or like that I just don't have it in my bones to be a jealous person. Like I love when people do well. In fact, I have more anxiety when people don't do well, because then I feel the pain that they're feeling when they're going through life. Like it breaks my heart when people are struggling. Like I don't like when people struggle, when they can't pay the bills, when they're stressed out, when their marriages are failing, when they can't feed their kids, when they don't have vehicles to drive, like when they don't have insurance, or they don't have these things. Like that breaks my heart. I don't have it in my bones to start resenting another person because they're doing better than me. I am so happy for another individual. And I think, at least in my family, there was just so much jealousy and like, for instance, I have one family member who was like the most successful family member of all of us all, right? And she basically raised me and she loved me and she did everything she could. She was the most successful person in our family, and she's helped me tremendously and truly has shaped me into the woman I am today. And then the moment that I started doing better than her, and I've never walked around and been like, this is how much I made yesterday. This is how much I made this month. This is how much.
Never. We actually hide it.
I hide it. Like when
we
I
drive
go
a different car when we go to my family's house.
I will not dress a certain way. I will not bring certain things around because I don't even want to be categorized. Like I almost feel shameful for some of the things that I have because I know it would make them feel uncomfortable. And she's successful. Like they live around in a very successful neighborhood. They drive beautiful cars. They have a nice home. Like they're successful employees making a couple $100,000 a year. And right when I started doing better than her, and I never said it, there just comes to a point where like, it's kind of hard to hide. Like if I invite you over, I'm not gonna go rent an Airbnb and like go get a different place. Like it gets to a point where it's like, okay, this costs money. So what are you doing? But the moment that I started doing better than her, she completely flipped a switch on me and attacked me and like in ways that like have been so hurtful and so sad because I idolized her and she was like a mom to me. But then I realized that that's a projection of her, is that the moment I don't know if there's a syndrome for this or like it's like princess syndrome or queen syndrome. I don't know. Like, but it's almost like the moment that I passed her up, I was no longer of value to the family, that I was a threat. And I'm like, from a little girl that idolized you and wanted to be like you, and I wanted to take care of you. Like if I could, I would buy her dream car. And I was telling my nanny this yesterday. I was like, because she told me one of her goals, and I said that was my goal for so long, is I wanted to buy this person, because I don't want to out this person, but I wanted to buy her. Like she always wanted a Porsche 911, and I wanted to buy her a Porsche 911. And then, now she completely turned her back on me, and so that relationship is gone. But that's what you kind of have to understand too, is sometimes when you start to get so successful, is that people get jealous of you. And it's something that is very sad, and it's very depressing. And I'm not saying it's going to happen to every one of you, because I never thought this was going to happen to me. And then I realized I don't need to hide anymore who I am. Like if I'm in my car, why am I changing the car that I'm driving to go? Like I worked hard for that.
Just realize like you don't treat people differently. Just realize you're going to have people that don't support you.
We have family members that would do so well in this business, that would probably be better than we could ever be. Like would do so well, but because the ego is so big, and the fact that little bro or like the youngest family member is doing so well, they won't join because they don't want to be under that light. And to me, I'm like, if my sister, I don't have any siblings, but I'm like, if she was doing well, I'm like, sign me up, girl. Like we're doing this together. That's just how I operate. But not everybody operates that way. And so don't take it offensively. Don't let it eat you alive, because at the end of the day, the family that you come from doesn't always mean that that's the family that's meant for you. And I have people in this business that I consider more family than than I do my own bloodline that I've known for 28 years. So,
Sorry, there's a quote that I love. It says, your day ones are chosen for you. Your day twos, you get to choose.
Yeah.
Right? And it was basically like your day twos are way better than your day ones, because your day ones are chosen by the neighborhood you grew up in. Your day ones were chosen by the school that your parents could afford, of the neighborhood for you to live in. And then you went to that school. So those are your day ones. Your day twos, you get to choose. Your day twos, you get to choose to be around. And you want to find people with a common vision, not a common past, right?
Yes.
A common future. So just because they have a common past doesn't mean you're going to have a common future. And you have to be willing to let go, right? And it doesn't mean you don't love people. It doesn't mean you don't care for people. But if you are trying to grow, and there's the crab mentality, where it's like, if you put two crabs in a bucket, you don't have to put a lid on it, because one crab will always pull the other one back into the bucket. It will never escape. So there's the crab mentality, where you're trying to get out of the bucket, and you're going to have people that try to pull you down. And it's you just saying, you know what? I love you, but I'm going to love you from a distance. I respect you, but I'm going to respect you from a distance. I care for you, but I'm going to care for you from a distance, right? And I'm not going to allow it to affect me becoming all that I can be. Because a lot of us, we dim our own light just because we don't want to outshine our own family. Yes. And the fact of the matter is like, if someone in our family was doing well, like we would want them to do well. We would want them to shine. We would want them, right? And not everybody operates, but that's a scarcity thought process. They're operating from scarcity because they're like, well, if you go become great, you're going to out me not doing all that I can be to become the best of the version of me.
Yes.
Right?
And speaking of like dimming light, like a candle doesn't lose its light by lighting another candle. So I'm like, why can't people operate out of that? And it's something, here's the deal. Like at any point in time, if you need to, like love them from a distance. But don't feel guilty if, like, I felt so guilty for cutting them off, because I felt like, well, that's my family. Like that's my bloodline. Like that, and especially in the Filipino culture, like it's a cultural thing. Like you're, especially like in the Mexican culture, like it's like you are it, like you take care of your family, like it's a whole thing. And I felt so guilty, but then I was like, I'm not going to keep putting myself in a place where I'm not welcome or loved for who I am. Yeah. I'm not going to continue to put myself in situations where I'm not appreciated and respected, because I've earned this. I've earned a seat at this table. And if you don't like it, then I'll move tables. So that's just kind of how I operate now. Or I'll go build and buy my own at this rate. But,
But like I've not I didn't even realize that I did this, just so you guys know. Like, you don't realize it until later. There's been times where I didn't strive for more because I was afraid that if I got more, I would lose my family. Mm-hmm. How crazy is that? There were times where I didn't strive for more because I felt like if I got more, my family would right? And it kept me from going harder, right? And so because I didn't well, if I become this and I'm not right? And then I just realized that your relationship, our relationships were never built on that to begin with, right? But I grew up in a family that was scarce around money. Money was very scarce. It was if you had money, there was only one person in our family that had money, and they did bad things. They didn't do bad things to get it, but they were sleazy, right? There was a sleazy car salesman where they would flip this or they would do this. They would get deals where you shouldn't get deals, if that makes sense, right? And it was, my dad's brother, and my mom never liked him. My dad didn't like the way. So there was this bad association, not the brother you've met. There was just a negative association with money where people who had money were evil, right? And they never said it, but there was this weird tension around it. And so I felt if I got money, then my family would have tension with me, right? And it hasn't been the case. There's been certain scenarios, right? But the point of this, like I said, is just for you to realize it's okay if people don't support you. It's okay, right? Okay. Just be we support you. Yes. We have your back. Yes. And then when there's going to be time where they need to be supported, you're going to be in a position where you can write the check. When my dad and mom needed me the most, I've always been able to write the checks, right? Mm-hmm. And my dad was always forever grateful of that. My mom was always forever grateful of that. There's still the awkwardness of stuff like this. So then we do things at different houses. But at the end of the day, it's okay is the point. It's okay, right? You just got to keep pursuing forward because there are people that need you. And that's what we had to realize is it was about the greater good, right? If all of a sudden we stopped earlier because we were afraid to inconvenience our own family, or we were afraid to intimidate our own family with our own success, then you guys wouldn't even be here, which means your families would now be impacted in a negative way because we couldn't get through that feeling up front, right? So I want to switch gears a little bit. One of the things that I love that you talk about is Arresta Development, where basically it's something that keeps you from becoming all that you can be. And I'll let you tell the story of what Arresta Development is, but we all have something that's holding us back, and we don't always know what that something is. And I think Ali identifies this in the best possible way. So if you could talk about that, I think it'd be powerful.
Oh man, it's my favorite subject. But Arresta Development is something that I dive deep in because I needed it. Number one, I had a lot to unpack. But number two, I wanted to understand and help navigate understanding other people in our organization and just people that I'm around. But Arresta Development is something that you go through in life, and typically it's a trauma. I mean, it is a trauma, and it usually happens when you're younger. It can happen when you're older, but it's typically when you're younger. And it's a trauma that you go through, and as a child or an early adult, you take that trauma and you develop it and you internalize it into a personality trait. And
where you literally become arrested, right? It's so traumatic
it literally
that the emotion that you felt in that moment of the trauma happened arrests you in your development, arrests you in your development.
Yes. So you are basically handcuffed, and you don't understand. You go through life and you don't understand why, and nobody does because nobody talks about it. And so oftentimes, there's, a lot of examples, but there is a story that I love to share. It's about a professor, and this professor is speaking to his class, and he's talking about this story. It's like a sociology class or philosophy, whatever, one of those classes. And he's talking about how there's a gentleman who went to jail because he had beat his wife so bad, to the point where, oh man. Oh my God, I'm scared. I don't want to say that. That is the sweetest thing. He is so helpful. I was saying, he's the best. I'm gonna cry.
That's right.
No, I go, where's the baby? She's like, oh,
dragging her out.
That was iconic. Did we get that on video? No. Nobody got that? Darn. So anyways, this gentleman, hurts his wife all the time, and to the point where he ends up going to jail and has to serve time for a very long time. And fast forward many, many years ago, the gentleman gets out of jail and starts teaching and starts getting involved in teaching, and has his own sociology class or psychology class, whatever it is. And moral of the story is that the gentleman, for many, many years, when he was a little boy, his dad used to hurt his mom all the time. And so what had happened was what he saw his dad do, he would do to his wife. And at the end of the class, this woman comes on a wheelchair and she wheels in, and he goes, "So this is my wife and I'm that man." And the woman comes in and they ask her, like, "Why did you take him back? Like, why would you do that?"
Because he went to jail for X amount of years and then came back.
For hurting her so bad. And by the way, she's in a wheelchair now because of him. And she said, "Because I had to understand and realize that wasn't my husband and it wasn't his fault. It was what he learned and what he saw as a little boy." And so every single time that she would have to remind herself that he was responding as the 8-year-old boy who saw his dad do that to his mom. And so
every single time there was something that would trigger an emotion, that emotion would take him back to being that 8-year-old kid.
Yes.
And so he was no longer operating as a 45-year-old man. He was operating as an 8-year-old kid in a 45-year-old body because he's arrested to that emotion.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
And so oftentimes in life, like when we respond to our teammates, when we respond to a situation, or even our children, when we snap at our kids or snap at each other, we're responding in ways that are the reason why we're responding is because we're triggered. And what I've realized recently is that a lot of times this stems from unforgiveness. And so I have recently been on a path of forgiving, and I think there's a lot of people in your life that you need to forgive. And it doesn't mean that you need to forgive them and go be buddy-buddy, and it's not for that person. Forgiveness is for you, and it's for your healing journey. And when you learn to forgive and you learn to operate and give people grace. Like, can you imagine if we all walked around through life and there was a big bubble, imaginary bubble, playing all of your most horrific memories as a child that no child should go through, that points in your life when you weren't protected like you were supposed to be, or things that happened in your life that somebody was supposed to defend you and didn't defend you. And all these things, all these burdens, when you felt not safe or when you felt insecure or when you felt threatened, imagine if all those stories were playing. And we could see it. Like, I could see yours, I could see yours, I could see yours. Wouldn't you give people more grace instead of having such a judgmental personality on people, or so quick to react to a situation, instead of being like, okay, this is why they're reacting? And I think as leaders, when you start to really like master that skill, you are able to help people in ways that you could never have helped them before. And understanding that we're all humans, like, we're not perfect. And some of us, we put each other on such a high pedestal and just not realizing that we make mistakes and that we're not literally like, and some people, for instance, like with Matt, right? You think that he's supposed to be this perfect person that's going to lead you to the promised land. And yes, he is. Like, he's striving. That's what he wants to do. That's his mission and his life's work, is to help you all become successful. But he's also a human being. And so sometimes, like back in the day when he would, get so intense and talk a certain way and some people would get upset or get annoyed or get frustrated. And I'm like, but who are you to judge? Like, we're human. I know about 20 things that you have done and that you, like, you know what I mean? Like, and if somebody's perfect in this room and has never sinned or never lied, never cheated, never stolen, never done anything bad, like, stand up now. I'm going to applaud you, and whatever you say, I'm going to do, because you are amazing. But if you've made mistakes in life, like, why are we so quick to judge people? Why are we so quick to hate? And just because you've had your heart broken once doesn't mean you can't love again. Just because you've, been lied to doesn't mean you can't trust again. Like, it's something that I think people they don't realize how important this tool is to understanding human nature and understanding people's triggers and understanding
your own triggers.
Your own triggers. Yeah. Because first it starts with you, and then first you need to heal, and then you can help others heal. Yeah. And so.
Yeah, like when I, especially in the beginning stages, like in the beginning stages of our relationship, I had a hard time letting her in, right? And when it came to leadership, it was the same thing. Like I never allowed anyone to get close to me in leadership. And one of the reasons is like, I remember, and I realized this later, but I couldn't figure out, I was like, why am I having such a hard time developing great relationships with people, right? And I realized like when I was 12 years old, my dad was basically going in for a surgery the next day. And it was a 0.05% chance that he was going to make it out of the surgery. And so my dad brought us up to our back deck, and he brought each one of me and my brothers up one by one. And he said, goodbye. And he said, goodbye. I love you. This is how much I believe in you. Take care of your mom, take care of your brothers. Be there. Like I remember vividly, I've never seen him cry before in my entire life. I remember him bawling his eyes out. I remember him saying goodbye. And we would say like, no, you're not going. And he was like, Matt, I might not be here tomorrow. Right. And I remember him saying goodbye. And I remember just the pain of saying goodbye to your hero, right? He was my coach in sports, never missed a game, never missed a practice, never missed anything. Right. And I remember saying goodbye in those moments. And so for me, that pain, I never wanted to feel that pain ever again. So the only way for me to know not to feel that pain again is just to not let anyone else in to become that close to me where they can make me feel that level of pain. So I just decided to block everyone out, right? And so when it came to our relationship, she would try to get close to me and I would block her out of allowing her to come in because I didn't want to give her the ability to hurt me with the same level of pain that I felt when I was 12 years old, right? When it came to our business, I would try to lead people. And the only way to truly lead people is to allow them to get close enough to hurt you. But I wouldn't allow them to get close enough to hurt me because I didn't want to feel that pain. And so when it came to developing relationships with our people, when it came to developing relationships with our leaders, it became very difficult because I would block everyone out. Mm-hmm. And so when I realized this about myself, where it's like, wow, I block these people out because I don't want them to get close enough to hurt me because I'm trying to keep myself from ever experiencing that level of sadness, right? It affected all of our relationships. And so I had to work on it. I still work on it to this day. I still have a hard time with it, right? Letting people in, allowing people to get close to me, right? And it takes time. That's why when you look at it, like a lot of these guys have been with us for years, and that's why we have such close relationships.
Yeah.
But you just got to realize, like, what is it for you? Because it affected me in leadership. I wouldn't allow our people to get in. I was like, how come they're not staying? It's because they're like, we want to know Matt. We want to get to know you. We want to be able to spend time with you. We want to have a relationship with you. And I was like, I'm going to keep you at a pole so you can't hurt me because there's so much turnaround in this business.
Right.
Makes sense. But that was the exact thing. That was the exact reason why there was turnaround is because they never got that close.
Yes.
Right. So
and
I'll just say final question.
With trauma, really quick, with trauma, it can actually make you sick. Like, and this is something that this might be a little bit too deep, but what the healthcare industry and what Big Pharma doesn't tell you is that 85 to 95% of illness is caused in the gut. When you go through trauma, it happens in your gut. Your gut stores it. Think about it. Like, you are a human vessel. Why does a human vessel, like let's just say a random human is living in the country with just eating off the land, like whatever it is, has no chemicals going in their body, has no trauma going on, that person's going to be healthy. So, but when you start, whatever you put into your body, your gut internalizes it, and then the rest of your organs have to figure out, okay, is this good for us? Is this not? This is causing us stress. This is not. Well, the same thing happens with trauma. And so a lot of times when you have unforgiveness and trauma, it shows up in your body as ailments. And so I've literally witnessed it with myself, and I've witnessed it with so many people that if you can go back to all the times you've had ailments, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of times people are born with things, and I understand that, but that's another story. I'm not going to get into that either, because that's a little bit too far on that side. But a lot of times people have trauma and unforgiveness, and I ask them, I'm like, well, when did this happen? Or when did this go on? Like, when did your sickness happen? And I go, but no, what really happened in your life? They tell me, oh, well, this, my dad hurt me, or this person hurt me, or this person lied to me, or this person stole from me or cheated, or something bad happened. and you internalize it in your gut. That's why I ever heard the saying, like, listen to your gut. Your gut and your stomach is so powerful. And so when you start to heal your trauma and forgive the people you need to forgive, your body starts to heal and you can operate in a much, much better place. So I just want to share that because I could get deeper, but I'm not going to because for the sake of time. But if you want to talk about it, we can talk about it. But it's very powerful once you really start to dive in. So,
well, amazing.
So yeah.
Final question.
Yes.
Why? How many of you guys have a spouse? Right?
What'd she say?
She said looking for one, right? What,
Okay.
in a short answer, right? Why did you support me?
Oh.
And what was it because we're all in the same position. We're like, I wanted her to support me. If you're in this room right now, you want your spouse to support you. What made me supportable? And like, why did you support me in the very beginning? Especially because we were not in a good spot. In fact, we were in a really bad spot, yet you still supported, you still helped us through that. Like, why did you support it? What was it about because we were in the midst of adversity, yet you still supported, right? Mm-hmm. So why?
If you are in that role of supporting, I just want you to understand that if you think of it as a bridge, think of a bridge and your spouse is the bridge and you're the support beams. Who has more work? The support beams. Who needs to be stronger? So that's my nugget for number one, is that as a support person, I don't want people to think, well, I just support my spouse and that's it. But that's such a powerful and such a strong and such a, it's a true gift and a true role of a warrior and a champion, is someone that can be a good support system and a good guide for sure. But the reason why I supported you is because there's many reasons. But for instance, like everything you said you were going to do, you've delivered on. And so if like you're like, I'm not going to be here a lot, but I'm going to deliver on, I'm doing this and I'm going to deliver on this. And so everything you've ever told me you've delivered on, you've never once steered me wrong. And so I had so much faith in that because it wasn't like you were making promises that you couldn't keep. And so I think a lot of us, we're okay taking the L. We're okay taking the 0. But for you, you operated in a sense of like, I told you this, I'm not taking the 0. I'm not taking the L. I'm not taking 0 numbers on the board. And so I appreciated that. But also I think it's your character. It's like, I've seen this man Okay, well, damn it. Okay, hold on. Sorry, this is embarrassing. I have falsies on. I'm like, oh my God.
I don't know what a falsie is, but.
It's a fake laugh.
Me too.
I've seen him lose his hero and still show up at work. And still show up to the office and do appointments in the same day. You know, like most people would take a month off or 2 months off. I've seen you in the room while I was giving birth to our daughter and you finding out if our career was going to be a career anymore, and you still show up and work. And I've seen him get so close to people and love people and believe in them for them to turn their back on you. I've seen people bash your name and for you not to say anything bad about them. I've seen people steal from him and him still give. I've seen people cheat and lie to you and you still trust. I've seen people not believe in you and you still believe. I've just seen people do the worst things that they could possibly do and break your heart and you still love. And to me, and it's not like I've never heard you speak ill of another person. I've never heard you like even, people who've ever talked bad about you. And to me, like it makes me mad. Like it pisses me off. And you're like, it's okay. Like everything's fine. Like it has nothing truly bad to say. And you can ask Yasmin, like her and I will be so irritated. And we're like, no, we need to do this. And he's like, it's okay. On to the next, hope they do well. And I'm like, hope they do. I'm just kidding. But I'm like, hold my earrings. No, but, I've seen you dedicate your whole life to a purpose, and then that purpose changed, and you have to, like, I've just seen you have to move so quickly it with so much stress and so much on your plate and do it effortlessly. And I've seen you win when you're not supposed to win, and I've seen you literally get run over by a tractor and still just like with a smile on your face. And I've seen you so exhausted, getting 2-3 hours of sleep and walking in that door, and you're the best dad in the world, and you're so excited to see Brave. And I've seen you tired and still show up. And to me, that's just like, why wouldn't you support that? And if you're not delivering on the promises that you're giving your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend or your brother or sister, whoever you're doing this for, you need to operate in the sense of like, for this man, this is his sport. This is his livelihood. This is his game. Like this is his world. And you have to, if you want to win to the certain levels that this man wins at, and I'm not even, yes, he's my husband and I'm so proud of you, but I've seen so many giants in the industry. I've never seen somebody go through what you go through outside of Eric and carry yourself like you carry. And, but if you want to win, like that's the sacrifice that you have to take. You have to learn to smile and bleed at the same time. And you have to operate in a sense of like all those things that you go through, all the adversity that you go through. If you take a break, it's just about you. That winning is only for you. This man doesn't stop because winning is for you, not him. Like he doesn't have to work. I tell him all the time, I'm like, we're good now. Like we're good. And he's like, no, we're not because Jill and Gabby aren't good. No, we're not because Jordan and Yasmin aren't good. No, we're not because Abdul and Janae aren't good. And that's a different breed of a human being. And so I'm sorry I cried, but but it's true. And I don't have a problem supporting somebody who was born to help and serve others. And here's the deal. I've been hearing people saying, well, I don't want to help, or I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do that because I don't want to look like the help. I don't want to serve. I don't want to do this. If your ego is so big that you can't help and serve, then you're too small to lead and win. And so,
damn.
This man is about serving and helping others, and I have no problem supporting you and getting you to the level that we need for the betterment of the team. So, I love you.
Mm-hmm. Allie Welsh. I love you.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and do me a favor, if you got something out of today's message, because this was an exclusive conversation that most people don't typically have access to, we wanted to give you a little bit of an insight of what goes on in our business, in our culture, in our environment. And so if you got something out of it, do me a favor. If you can like, share, subscribe, tell somebody about it, because once again, we put out all this information for free. All we ask is that if we made a difference in your life in any way, you tell a friend. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you guys next week on the Leaders Only podcast.
Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it.